What if I told you that in the United States, war is not only a strategy of defense, but a business model, not a metaphor, not a conspiracy theory, a functioning, measurable, profit-driving system woven into the fabric of the American economy? But here's the twist. This system didn't begin with generals or presidents. It didn't start on battlefields or in war rooms. It began in boardrooms, manufacturing plants, lobbying offices, and financial networks long before the public ever realized what was happening. And the real mystery is this: how did a nation built on ideals of freedom, democracy, and peace become the world's most profitable producer of conflict? Tonight, we pull apart a mechanism that operates quietly behind headlines and beyond elections, a mechanism that turned warfare into an industry into a habit, and a habit into a global business. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the stranger and more revealing this story becomes. To understand how America transformed warfare into a money-making machine, we must begin not with modern wars, but with something subtler, a shift in the economic DNA of the country. For most of early American history, war was seen as a temporary disruption, a brief economic spike followed by a return to normal life. But by the early 20th century, something changed. Enter the industrial giants. Companies like DuPont, Bethlehem Steel, Colt, Boeing, and later Lockheed and Raytheon saw something different in war: a stable, predictable market. While wars were unpredictable, the fear of war wasn't, and fear, if handled correctly, became a renewable resource. The military-industrial blueprint. During World War I, U.S. industrialists discovered something they had never imagined. War orders offered massive guaranteed profits because the government needed weapons fast, and it needed them no matter the cost. This is the first twist most people miss. America didn't set out to build a war economy. The war economy found America, and America learned to like it. World War II completed the transformation. The U.S. government mobilized over 300,000 companies to produce weapons, ships, aircraft, engines, ammunition, electronics, and the first computers. The scale was unimaginable. But when the war ended, something unexpected happened. The economic addiction. America realized that its economic boom was built on military spending. Entire towns depended on defense contracts. Entire industries existed only because of war production. Entire political careers depended on directing military funds back home. When peace arrived, the military economy didn't shrink, it panicked. Factories didn't want to close. Politicians didn't want to lose jobs in their districts. Corporations didn't want to abandon the most lucrative business they had ever known. And so came the pivotal question that would shape the next 80 years. What happens to a country whose economy becomes addicted to the business of war? The answer arrived in 1947, when the US and the Soviet Union entered the Cold War. The military economy found its perfect long-term customer: the fear of an existential enemy. Unlike World War II, the Cold War had no timeline, no end date, no single battleground. This meant something extraordinary: constant justification for massive military budgets. The Pentagon's annual jackpot. During the Cold War, defense spending became a reliable national expense. An annual cycle of fear gives spending, gives profit, gives political support. This is when America's modern war business model truly formed. Lobbying enters the battlefield. Defense companies began hiring former generals, former Pentagon officials, political strategists, congressional aides. Lobbying became a weapon more effective than any missile. Money didn't just influence politics, it shaped the very definition of national security. Threats didn't need to be imminent, they only needed to be plausible. The system reached its critical turning point during the Vietnam War. For the first time, media and citizens began questioning the purpose of the conflict, who truly benefited from escalation, and why military solutions were always chosen over diplomatic ones. War as a self-sustaining market. Here's where the machinery becomes shockingly clear. Weapons must be used gives to justify buying more weapons, gives to provide revenue, gives to maintain jobs, gives to sustain political donations, gives which approve more military spending, gives which produces more weapons. A loop, a self-feeding ecosystem. Wars didn't need to be won, they just needed to continue. Think about this. Every bomb dropped must be replaced. Every tank destroyed must be rebuilt. Every missile fired becomes a new purchase order. Victory doesn't maximize profits. Sustained conflict does. This is not a moral judgment, it's an economic observation. By the early 2000s, the system took a new turn. One few people saw coming: privatized warfare companies like Blackwater, Halliburton, KBR, Academy Dincorp entered the battlefield. War was no longer just fought by soldiers. It was staffed, supplied, rebuilt, fueled, guarded, and maintained by corporations. Corporations paid with government contracts that grew larger each year. The astonishing numbers at the height of the Iraq War. Over 50% of personnel in the war zone were private contractors. Billions were paid out with limited oversight. Some contracts guaranteed profit, regardless of cost overruns. Imagine running a business where losses didn't matter because profit was guaranteed. This model didn't fade, it grew. Drone contractors, cyberwar contractors, surveillance contractors, AI-driven weapons contractors, a modern gold rush. Over the decades, reformers tried to reduce dependence on military spending. They failed for one simple reason: the system is interlocked. Why it can't be reformed easily. 1. Jobs. Millions of American livelihoods depend on the defense sector. 2. Politics. Few politicians are willing to cut military budgets in their own districts. 3. Global influence. The US uses military power to maintain international leverage. For corporate lobbying, defense companies spend massive sums ensuring military investments continue. 5. Security narrative. Any reduction in spending can be framed as a risk to national safety. This is not a conspiracy, it's a structural lock. A machine designed over decades that now has no off switch. Even today, the pattern repeats quietly, consistently. Record budgets. US military spending continues to exceed the next several nations combined. New revenue streams. The business model evolved beyond bombs and bullets. Cyber defense, space warfare, AI-powered targeting systems, international arms sales, data-based surveillance systems, private military startups. Wars no longer need to be large, they just need to be possible. Shocking modern pattern. Every major global crisis in the last 20 years, from terrorism to regional conflicts to geopolitical tensions, resulted in predictable spikes in US defense spending and corporate profits. Fear remains the engine, profit remains the fuel, and the machine keeps running. Slow, reflective music. Visuals of globe turning. The United States did not deliberately choose a war business model. It evolved into one through economic incentives, political pressures, global ambitions, and corporate influence. But today, the consequences are global. America sells more weapons internationally than any country in human history. Conflicts across regions become geopolitical business opportunities. Peace efforts struggle because war has economic momentum. The system is profitable, but profit always comes with a cost. 3 clear takeaways. 1. America's war economy wasn't designed, it emerged. Step by step, decade by decade, war spending became intertwined with American industry, jobs, and political power. 2. Modern warfare is driven as much by economics as by strategy. Decisions aren't made in a vacuum, they're influenced by profit networks and corporate interests. 3. If war becomes good for business, peace becomes harder to justify. This is the most troubling consequence. Once conflict generates revenue, the incentive to avoid conflict weakens. If a nation gains economic strength from preparing for war, what happens when peace threatens the economy? Does the system quietly encourage conflict, or simply become unable to stop it? And if the machine continues to grow, who, if anyone, can switch it off? If you found this breakdown eye-opening, share this video with someone who's been asking deeper questions about global power and economics. And if you want more long-form explorations into the hidden systems shaping our world, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. Because the more we understand these mechanisms, the less power they have to operate in the dark.